All right, our hip-hop intro just rolled. All right, welcome in. Happy Monday. It's the Believe in Georgia Dogs podcast on the Believe Network. Joining me, as always, is my main man, Israel Troop. Troop, what's up, man?
What's up, brother? Just getting a little yard work done today. If you live in South Georgia like myself, you know just as well as I do how bad pollen is. And just FYI, the critters are out, so make sure you're safe, as you're going throughout your day. And if you buy critters, I don't have to even tell you what those are.
Yeah, if you live in South Georgia and you don't know what critters means, you haven't lived in South Georgia very long. So luckily, luckily for that reason, I do not live in South Georgia. Up here in Tennessee, it is winter's last hurrah. It's rainy and not cold, but like in the 50s where it kind of like feels like it's way colder than it actually is type situation. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, you can have that. I don't want no part of that either.
Yeah, but it was like 70 and 80 degrees a couple of days last week. So I think we're getting more of that from here on out. But we are presented by betonline.ag. It remains to be your number one source for all of your sports betting needs, whether you're betting on XFL, NBA, upcoming MLB, and how many teams will lose based on the pitch clock. You have college hoops coming up. Postseason tournaments are right around the corner. You can even bet on esports. I don't know how you do that, but you can. So you always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. So we're the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. So head to betonline.ag now and join and receive your 50% welcome bonus for your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, that's where the game starts. So we got an action-packed show, and I was kind of scrolling through social media and trying to figure out just exactly what we were going to talk about. I noticed that 2,500 people and a lot of people commented and liked our quarterback video. So I figured, and I saw this post, and it was perfect. I'm like, great. Let's talk some more quarterbacks. This time, the way we're going to do it, now we're going to compare Carson Beck or whoever decides to win that starting job at Georgia based on the rest of the conference. So we'll try to do a little comparison sake, just so everybody kind of sees where our guy stacks up against the rest of the league. So this ranking, this is not our ranking. I'm gonna preface what I'm saying by that. StatCat from On3 posted this pre-spring quarterback rankings. Now, there's a couple of assumptions here that there's two assumptions here that I'll say two. There's two. Okay, I'll give you three. There's three assumptions that these guys are going to win there. I'm not real sure what to say about the Alabama situation, but there's three guys here that they're presuming are going to win the starting jobs coming out of spring or just in general. So we'll kind of look at where they are or what whoever's playing quarterback at that particular school is. So the list runs as follows. KJ Jefferson, number 1, Jaden Daniels, number 2, Devin Leary, number 3, Joe Milton, number 4, Spencer Rattler, number 5, Will Rogers, number 6, Spencer Sanders at Ole Miss, who's in a three-way battle with Walker Howard and Jackson Dart at number 7, Carson Beck, who's in a three-way battle with Gunnar Stockton and Brock Vandegrift at 8, Jalen Milroe, who's in a battle with Ty Simpson at 9, and Graham Mertz, who's in a battle. I don't know what he's in a battle with. He's in a battle with himself, I guess, but he's number 10. Not on this list is Robbie Ashford, AJ Swan, Connor Wegman, and Brady Cook from Missouri. So, pretty solid list, I think. Let's start with our guy. Obviously, that's what people want to hear about. Mm-hmm. So let's assume Carson Beck wins the job. Now we know if you listen to our last episode, you know what our thoughts are on Carson Beck's abilities and what he brings to the table. If you don't, go back and pause it right now, go back and listen to that one first. Okay. Yes. So let's say Carson Beck wins this job. Is he the 8th best quarterback in the league, or should he be higher?
I think right now, you give it to him right now simply because, many of the people who are ahead of him have played significant snaps. KJ Jefferson being number one is obviously, the best choice of everything that's on this list right now. So because of his intangibles, it's going to be interesting to see, how him and the new OC at Arkansas kind of gel. Yeah. Because we all know how that goes sometimes with, a new coordinator and quarterback coming from one system to another. But with KJ being number one, obviously that's there. And Spencer Rattler had a great season in the second half. He struggled a little bit, but once he kind of got comfortable, within the system that they had before their OC left as well, he started to pick up, started getting the ball out, looked a little bit more comfortable. The most comfortable I saw him was obviously against Tennessee, but even the Clemson game, he looked comfortable too. So obviously those guys, being at the top of that list, is a no-brainer. Those guys have played significant football. Those guys have significant snaps, have proven themselves as a starting as at the quarterback position. Now with our guy, it's just going to be interesting to see how he, first of all, he's got to take control of the offense. That's going to be number one. Can he do that? Like I said earlier in our previous show, he was in the doghouse for a little bit. Apparently he's gotten out. So, can we stay out the doghouse? Because we all know how, Georgia is about quarterbacks. So once you're in the doghouse, it's really hard to get out. But, if you want to be that guy, it's time to grow up. You got to be the guy. So, but the great thing about it is, with him being number 8, in a really good SEC list, is that he's got 2 hungry guys behind him. That's going to make him, play his best. Even last year, Stetson knew that at some point, if he messed up enough, that they would put Carson Beck in. Like he could say what he wanted to, but he knew. But it was his team. But at the same time, winning is winning. If you're not getting the job done, you can be replaced. So, I think Carson Beck's biggest, how do I say it? Biggest caveat is the fact that he's got 2 people behind him that are hungry, that are also 4 or 5 stars as well.
That's going to motivate them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they absolutely will.
Our guy being 8, I completely understand because he has to prove himself. So I'm not mad about the list. I think he's pretty higher than, I would have probably ranked him, from an outside guy looking in. So, he's got to win it first, and we'll see how it goes.
My one big problem with the list is number 10. I think Brady Cook should be number 10 over Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz has proven absolutely nothing, but this is not the Believe in Florida show, so I'm not going to get too much into detail about that. But, I think this is a pretty solid list, and I think Carson Beck fits in perfectly at 8. I could make an argument if he wins the job or whichever Georgia quarterback wins the job could be in that number 7 spot. I think you have a good list of veterans here, Jefferson and Daniels. You could interchange those 2 guys at 1 and 2, and it would not matter. Devin Leary, super talented, coming from NC State. Don't know what he's going to do in this league, so I don't love him at number 3, but he certainly has the talent to fit that top 3 role. I think Joe Milton and Will Rogers should switch spots. I think Rattler is perfect where he is. But yeah, Carson Beck has all the game experience of the 3 quarterbacks that he's competing against. He's going to have to, like you said, you hit the nail on the head, man. He's going to have to take command of this thing, and if he does, he can be a special guy and he can shoot right up this list. But if he doesn't, or if somebody, and just because he loses the job doesn't necessarily mean that he lost the job. It could have been that somebody won the job instead, and I know that's kind of one and the same thing, but the context of it
they
is
also have two different meanings. Yeah, there's a difference between losing your job and getting beat. I mean, kind of like
because the guy behind you doesn't necessarily deserve it, right?
Yes.
Whereas winning the job is, hey, this guy. It's clear that, hey, even though Carson Beck is really good, it's clear that this is the guy, and it's going to be to me when you look at the other players around him, how do they respond? So if Carson Beck, he has a leg up because we've seen that in games. Yes. We've seen guys make plays for him. We've seen him thread the needle a few times. We've seen him move the ball down the field. What we haven't seen is Gunnar Stockton, who has led the scout team. Now, you assume that because our defense has been so good and was so good throughout the course of the season, for the most part, you have to assume that he did a good job of playing the quarterback role really well and leading that scout team. The wild card here is Brock Vandegrift. So we know what Carson Beck's got. We know Carson Beck is probably, if he ends up being the starter, which, injuries happen, things happen, he's probably, 7th, 8th best quarterback in the conference. Now, let's put Gunnar Stockton in there hypothetically with his skill set, because we don't know how we don't know how any of these guys are going to do as starters. We know how the top 6 will do as starters. Joe Milton starting the bowl game. That's kind of what I'm going to expect out of him. We know what the top 6 have. We know kind of what Spencer Sanders has at Oklahoma State. But the last 3, you don't know really. You don't really. You had a kind of a snapshot of Jalen Milroe, but it's a different coordinator now, so you don't know. Yeah, so Gunnar Stockton, with his skill set, Israel, where does he still rank 8th, or does he fall out of this list?
I think he falls down. I think he's probably last on this list, considering the fact that he was on the scout team last year. The world doesn't know what he's going to bring to the table. Obviously we kind of have a clue, just from recruiting and hearing so much about him, and he must be doing a really good job of slice and dice the defense, and getting them prepared, for Saturday and his road to winning the championship. So, it's just going to be interesting to see, how it all pans out. It all comes down to competing. You can say Carson Beck's going to be the guy. Well, hell, he might go out there and stink it up, and it's hard to get that job back, once you've lost it. So, it's one of those deals where, whoever's the hungriest quarterback in that room is going to win the job. And if it's Gunnar, if it's Brock, hell, we don't know. Brock might, come out and put on the show, So, it's just one of those deals to where, it's a wait and see deal. Do I think it's Carson Beck's job to lose? Absolutely. But can he lose it, after the first week of practice? Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see, what side they want to go and how they want to do everything.
Yeah, and then Brock Vandegrift, as you said, I think for him, I think he's the odd man out. I think Gunnar Stockton, at worst case, is going to be your number 2, and Brock right now is going to be your number 3. He's the wild card. He's the one that, if he wins this starting job, he's somebody that has the talent to play himself back onto the list, but I think he falls out of the list and Brady Cook jumps in, and I think everybody kind of just bumps up. So, because he's even more of an unknown. He probably just as much, or if not more than Gunnar Stockton. All we've seen is spring game clips, and Stockton looked better in his spring game clips than Brock Vandegrift. Brock Vandegrift looked stiff, nervous, whatever. Didn't look like he had total command of the offense for whatever reason. A lot could have changed between now and last April, but we'll see. Spring practice is right around the corner, so we'll kind of see it play out. But I thought this was an interesting hypothetical, just to kind of see where these guys would stack up, known commodities versus unknown commodities, and where do you think his talent would get him based on this list. But yeah, I think Gunnar Stockton is number 10, and I think Brock Vandegrift would be number 11 probably on this list, if you were to rank it all the way out to 14. So, yeah. But the top 6 are the top 6.
I heard very much, about Brock. Obviously, he was number 3 guy coming in behind Stetson and Beck. So, you kind of wonder how many reps he got, during the season. We all know that, Gunnar got most of the reps for the scout team, getting the defense prepared. So, like you say, he is kind of the odd man out, but, we're not knocking his ability by any means, because he is still, he wouldn't be at Georgia if he wasn't a really good quarterback. So, we just hadn't heard much about him. The last time we really saw him was spring game, last year. So it's going to be interesting to see, going into, the next couple of weeks, how everything kind of pans out with spring practice coming up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, they all, like I said, if you want to check out what our thoughts going into pre-spring and what they bring to the table are, just check out our last show. I mean, obviously you have Vandegrift and Stockton bring a dynamic to the run game that Carson Beck does not. So that's gotta count for something, and I think that'll get them some points in the long run. So. But we'll keep you updated throughout the spring and the practices and things and just kind of how this thing is shaking out a little bit. I mean, it's going to be the reports are going to be kind of all over the place, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Everybody's going to be trying to get a sneak peek. Everybody's going to be saying, who got the most reps. So-and-so got 20 reps. So-and-so got 10. So-and-so got 17. So this is obviously, the way it's going to go.
Yeah, the fans are going to name a starter after every practice.
We noticed that so and so had their ankles taped today. One guy was wearing white shoestrings instead of black shoestrings. So you know how the headlines come out of those. So especially with everything that's clickbait these days. With George, with one position that hadn't been solidified yet at the quarterback position, there's going to be a lot of hype, going into this thing. Kind of like when JT transferred in. From USC. So, everybody just, hunker down and, get your popcorn and enjoy the show, because it's going to be a good one up until that first game in September.
And it's going to be a full show, too. It's going to be a full-length feature going into camp and possibly even into the first two games. So, you never know. It'll be interesting nonetheless. But Dylan Raiola is future casted to commit to Georgia's number one quarterback in next year's class. So that'll be interesting. Can they hold him off? I mean, he's super talented. I mean, he can come in. I don't know that Georgia's set up for a freshman to keep taking over. But if he's the best player, he's the best player. I don't think Kirby's going to be stubborn about that.
You can ball. Is that the kid from Cali? I've been hearing about. Where's he from?
Dylan Raiola is from Arizona, Pinnacle.
Arizona.
He's from the same high school that Spencer Rattler went to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, he's his top two right now are Georgia and Ohio State, and Georgia's got the slight lead there. Everybody seems to think he's going to be 100% to Georgia, so that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. So
I saw Little Manning. He was in a video out at Texas. So those guys are getting in. It's really good to be an early enrollee. You kind of get in. Get the leg of the lamb, things like that. So it's good to see these young guys. Meshing and gelling with the older guys, the vets. As we used to call ourselves back in the day. So, I don't know who all came in for us off the top of my head, but, those are just guys that I've seen so far. Justice Hayes, student athlete of the week. I know this isn't, believe in Alabama or believe in other teams, but, it's just good to see guys that, you've seen Justice Hayes play in person. He's a bad man, so. Downs is also at Alabama. These guys are from Georgia. I've seen play in person. So good to see guys. My man Jarvis Hayes from Ware County. He's at West Kentucky now, balling too. So just shout out to those guys who do what they're supposed to do in the classroom. And have the opportunity to leave early and try to make an impact.
And an impact that they're going to make. I think all those guys you just named are going to make a huge impact on their respective programs. I think Alabama did a phenomenal job of recruiting this past cycle. Nick Saban still got it. So, but speaking of Nick Saban, I'm gonna pivot a little bit. I know we'd say we get into combine stuff. We can get into combine stuff here in a little bit, but Kirby Smart was quoted at a press conference talking about, what I'm about to say, right?
Yeah.
Saying he owes Nick Saban so much, and of course that got everybody buzzing, right? He said if Nick wanted me to take over the Alabama program, I would, because I owe him that much. And what do you think about that?
I'm going to have to see him actually speak these words, because that does not sound like anything a guy like Kirby Smart would say. Now, does he owe Nick Saban a lot? Of course he does. Nick Saban kind of took him under his ring a little bit, kind of even when he was at Miami, Kirby went with him and, took him to Alabama during that amazing run. At the same time, I mean, you gotta get away from that. I appreciate it, but I'm going to continue to beat you. I don't want to live in your legacy. I want to make my own, and I want to continue to beat you while I make my own. Because you got to think, man, they want how many? When he was there, they want what, 4 or 5 when Kirby was there, something like that. So I want to win 4 or 5 at Georgia. Like, why would I want to go back to Alabama and be like, oh, he's taking over? Here it is. Like, no, I'm going to make my own dynasty here at Georgia, my alma mater.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I need to see the audio to this with him speaking these exact words.
Yeah, I know. And, just saying hypothetically, if it was true, which I don't know that it is, but if theoretically it was true, I just don't think he would go, honestly.
No.
I don't think he'd go.
Our AD is way cooler than their AD. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Trouble.
Shout out to the man, Josh Brooks.
Yeah. But I'm going to have to look for this. And it's probably just made up.
I don't think he said that. Does not, if you just listen to any of his press conferences, that does not sound like anything that he would say.
Yeah, but it got people buzzing. That's for sure. I was like, whoa, is it?
Look,
you know how you
and cancel culture. I mean,
I know, right? You know how people jump on that stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. I bet somebody was sitting in their living room was like, "Hey, watch this."
Yeah,
went to Wikipedia and just typed a bunch of stuff and put a picture on it with some quotes, and then hit send.
Yeah, and then people are like, "Man." There was, I meant to bring this up to you. This was, probably about a week old or so, that there was a brief, I think there was a brief uproar, and then, it just kind of died, and nobody dispelled the rumor. Nobody said anything like, oh, it's fake or anything like that. But, I just thought it was, one of those things where I was like, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But
yeah, I saw that, and I forget. It's one of the people that crap. I can't think of their names, but it was basically like, will y'all please get off of, how did they say it? Get off of Kirby's nuts or something like that. I can't remember how it said it, but it's just really funny how, as soon as people see stuff like that, it goes viral.
Yeah.
Can you believe Kirby said this and that, and the third? And, kind of like Stetson not waving at people at the parade. Obviously he was waving at people at the parade. Everybody had the same video. So people literally had the same video at the same time of what he did. And everybody's in an uproar. I was like, do y'all not realize everybody has the same video at that particular moment?
Yeah. Oh, man. I just thought, he's waving. No, he's not waving, man. No, I just thought you'd have a little fun with that, man. That's I saw that. I was like, geez. I mean, I did do a double take. I was like, what? Why would he say this? Doesn't make no sense. This doesn't make any sense. Why would he say that?
Yeah, I haven't heard of Nick Saban, a Kirby Smart interview as of late in the last month or two.
Yeah, he's probably ready. Well, they took a break, but nonetheless, let's move on. Let's cleanse the palate once again. Combine. We got about 6 minutes or so. Let's talk pre-combine. Before we do that, baseball, big sweep over Princeton. Sullivan and Woods got back on track after rough outings in the first series. They sweep Princeton, but we'll talk more baseball later in the week. Great pair of wins there for the Dogs this weekend.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's good to see our guys get back on track. And guess what? I think we came out unscathed with no injuries. Some days you got and some days you don't.
That's baseball.
as a pitcher. You're going to fail more times than you're going to succeed in the game of baseball. So the fact they were able to bounce back against a really good Princeton team, like, don't think just because it's Princeton, oh man, no, Princeton's a really good baseball team. When we got, a lot coming up here soon, SEC, will be starting here soon as well. So I'm looking forward to the Southern Georgia matchup. Georgia Southern's pretty sporty this year. So looking forward to that one. Hadn't heard very much about Georgia Tech. So I already know what the SEC brings, as a whole, but for out of conference, between Georgia Southern and Kennesaw, I think those would be two really good games for us.
Yeah, those will get us ready for SEC play, I think, as far as non-conference series goes, because those teams play. I mean, any team in the Southeast, warm weather climate, baseball teams are usually pretty good. Those talents get spread pretty wide. So, but Combine, $1 million question here: Who do you think makes the biggest leap? Now, Jalen Carter's probably not going to make a huge leap because he's already projected where he's projected. So out of the guys like Darnell Washington, Broderick Jones, Keely Ringo, who else we got? Jake Podlesny, Christopher Smith, McClendon, those guys, Kenny McIntosh. Like, who makes the Stetson Bennett? Who makes the biggest leap here?
I think Ringo and Darnell Washington have the biggest upside right now. People are going to look for that big tight end, offensive lineman, kind of like what we talked about last time. Obviously, he's not an offensive lineman, but, he gives you an extra body, to add to the surface, of the offensive line, because he can play in line and he can be split out wide. So if I'm an NFL team, I'm looking to see, is he versatile? Can he move? How is he physically? Because, he was dealing with an ankle injury. He's a heel and all that good stuff. Keely, kind of was a little bit inconsistent this year, had a better year last year. Kind of see, where his mental state is. Christopher Smith, I think, has a huge upside as well. After performing so well in the Senior Bowl, coming into the Combine, if he has good numbers, can pass the interview process, because that's what a lot of teams are looking for these days during that interview process. I think those guys have the biggest upside. Now, who can benefit from having a good day? Both of our linemen can benefit from having a great day. Kenny McIntosh definitely can. And Stetson throw the ball. I mean, obviously, every football player wants to live, their NFL dreams. Can Stetson be a quality backup? Absolutely, because Chase Daniels did it for forever and
still
made
doing
millions
it,
of dollars. Quality back, absolutely. Being a quality
backup. $41 million as a backup, career backup with a couple spot starts.
You know what I mean? So, I'm not here for a long time, I'm here for a good time. Exactly. So, those guys, between those two, between Darnell and Keely, I think those two have, the most to prove. From a standpoint of, can you be reliable? Can you be consistent? And make sure you're not injury prone. For Christopher Smith, I think it just comes down to, hey man, keep balling. You never know where you might fall. I know the Bills are looking for a guy. I know Cincinnati's looking for a guy to replace Eli Apple. If I'm Cincinnati and I'm looking for a safety, it's the kind of guy I'm looking for. So because Eli Apple ain't it. But, who can have a great day is, Stetson can have a great day throwing the football. Kenny McIntosh show his versatility out the backfield, which I think is going to be his biggest upside, is coming out the backfield.
I also think Kenny McIntosh, his biggest upside is in the interview room, because I think he's going to have some of the tangibles, like he's going to have the speed. I think his shuttle time is going to help him. His vertical is going to help him, hopefully. Those are the things that he needs to kind of really win the day at. The straight line speed, it is what it is, but the interview, I think he has a chance to really crush that and possibly get himself into early day 3, maybe even to late day 2. If he has good interview, if he shows good lateral explosive ability with the shuttle drill and the broad jump, things like that.
I think the Broncos are looking for a guy, so I think he'd fit good with the Broncos. I think with Sean Payton coming in there, he could fall in there.
Mm-hmm. Him and Latavius Murray, because Murray's Sean Payton's guy. So I think they have a weird mix in the backfield that you don't really like. I mean, of course, Javonte Williams is coming back off knee injury, so see where he fits in the lineup. But McIntosh can be some much needed relief possibly early in the season where you have three guys there while Javonte Williams is recovering and getting back into game shape. You have some guys that can take the burden off of him a little bit, and if you have Kenny McIntosh that can provide that role, if he can mesh well and vibe well in Sean Payton's offense, that'd be a really good fit.
Absolutely. But I'm just looking forward to seeing these guys ball out, man. It's been a long time. I say a long time. It's only been a year since, we took over the draft pretty much. From a defensive standpoint, I'm kind of ready to see some offensive guys, kind of get shown some love a little bit in between there. But at the same time, Pickens, is doing great things in Pittsburgh. I was just watching a video the other day about him throwing Buddy from Georgia Tech into the wall. And I know many people were upset, and, you hear the commentator talking about, you got a game next week, but there's no way that I'm going to let you grab me like that and try to let it ride too. So I completely understand why you got beat up in your own stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, man. Tempers flare. People fight. It just, hopefully he doesn't show a pattern. I know he's a very passionate, fired up guy. And, there was that clip earlier.
He's had a great, he was one of those character issue guys too, when he was coming out, simply because of that. He had some
documented things though. Like he had a few issues that, academic issues, the fight that happened at Georgia Tech, and some of the things that, possibly went down, during his, he had a couple of red flags. So I kind of understand the Pickens ones. He was
definitely a little sassy while he was at Georgia.
Yeah, he was. and that's just his personality. He's a sassy dude. So hopefully he can contain it in the NFL, continue to contain it. I know he had a little outburst there towards the end of the season. He was frustrated. He wasn't getting the ball, but I mean, that's how wide receivers are. I mean, T.O. got frustrated, and he's a Hall of Famer. So, yeah. So, but I think Darnell has a chance. He's going to – I think if he wins the interviews, we talked about last week his draft stock check, kind of some teams – he fits in a lot of teams, but I think a perfect scenario would be like an Atlanta, a Baltimore, Buffalo – somewhere that like cold weather, big guy, you don't really want to lock horns with them. You can't really guard him. And Josh Allen has a big target. He can just like float. He can just improvise and float one up to him. And, he comes down with it. But let's be honest, he fit in with just about any system out there. So, that's, just his size, his athletic ability. And it's just going to be a matter of, can he stay healthy? I mean, I know tall, big guys like that have lower extremity issues, especially with ankles. So I think if he can avoid some of those issues, he should have a really good NFL career. If he doesn't, then it won't be ability for him. It'll be injury if Darnell Washington has a short-lived career.
Oh yeah, so. Very very Megatron-like, but. About 50 pounds heavier. Yeah.
I mean, him and LeBron are the same height and weight. Mm-hmm. And LeBron's a freak of nature. So I'm not comparing him to LeBron by any stretch, but LeBron's a freak of nature. But Darnell Washington is also a bit of a physical freak himself. He's probably a much stronger, he's the football version of LeBron James. He'll cause some problems for sure.
Absolutely.
He'll cause some issues.
Sure he's lean now, I'm telling, because the workout for NFL and college is totally different. So I'm pretty sure he's leaned up, moving good, probably the healthy he's been for a long time considering, going through rehab and all that stuff too. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performs. Yeah,
I'm curious here. I'm interested to see that. Ryan Roberts from Rise and Draft is going to be there. He's Joe DeLeon's partner on that podcast. He's going to be at the Combine. We're going to try to connect with him later this week, or if not, into next week, to kind of get the report on who did what, where, whose stock rose, whose stock stayed the same, and whose stock fell, things like that. So, but we're going to get out of here, man. It's been a good show, man. I thought the hypothetical early in the show with where our guys stack up in the conference was an interesting thing. But we'll keep an eye on how this race shakes out. We'll have more basketball stuff for you as SEC tournament play rolls around. Of course, as conference baseball play gets kicked into gear, we'll focus on that as well. And then, as always, we'll keep you updated on football. So, for Israel Troop, I'm Corey Burton. This is the Believe in Georgia Dogs presented by BetOnline.ag. We hope you have a great week. We'll see you back here next time. But until then, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.